access the podcast of OA. Located deep within Sector 14845 and powered by the Emerald Light of Will, the podcast of OA is your guide to the Green Lantern universe. Hosted by Lantern Myron Rumsey, the podcast of OA begins now.
Hey, fellow Owens, welcome to the podcast of OA, episode number 230. I'm Myron Rumsey, and I'm joined by my good friend Phil Bova, my friend on the other end. And this episode's going to be a little different. We don't have any new books right now. We're in the beginning of September of 2023, so we're going to do another top five. So we were talking, Phil and I, you and I were talking offline a little bit earlier, and we're like, geez, we did our top five Green Lanterns, our top five favorite female characters, our top five favorite villains. But what we didn't do was our top five favorite non-Green Lantern characters in the Green Lantern universe, which really is a wide open list because it's villains, it's supporting characters, it's members of any of the other Green Lantern Corps from the emotional spectrum. So this is going to be a wide open list. I'm interested to see what your top five is.
It is. And it was really hard to come up with the top five, I want to say, because
this was the hardest one.
I mean, you had to really think about it. It's like, okay, well, I'm thinking, because that's when I text you, I was like, I'm thinking like supporting characters, anyway, we'll get to it, but it was tough to come up with which one I wanted. It was.
It's funny because I thought the last time was going to be the toughest one. This was the toughest one.
It was. And I challenge any Green Lantern fan to do the same thing. I mean, it pulls you in a different direction because you're not, it's like one of those out of left field questions, because you're like, oh, well, okay. When you first said that, I sat there and thought to myself, well, hell, what do I think of on this one?
At first you're thinking, oh, this would be easy. Then you start thinking, wait a minute. And then you start going, and I'm like, okay, I've got 15, 20 characters right now on top of my head that I really love. How do I narrow this down? So it'll be fun.
And not only that, I hope the ones that chose, well, I mean, we'll get to it, but I hope the ones I chose fit the mold for that. So anyway,
it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
It'll be good.
So before we get into our top five characters, there's kind of a lot of news, not just Green Lantern news, but there's some channel news and that kind of stuff. I don't know about you, Phil, but I'm still at the age of 58. I still play a lot of video games. I don't know if you're in that mold or not.
Well, okay. I mean, my challenge this summer was to beat the Jedi game on PS3, and I got stuck on. I don't know. I'm stuck on a part and I can't get my way out of this cave situation. So I got mad and left it. Because my next challenge was to play, I wanted to play Legend of Zelda, the new one.
Mm-hmm.
But then my neighbor said, don't play the new one until you play the first one. So he loaned me the first one.
And down the rabbit hole you went.
And I'm in a rabbit hole. I still haven't beaten Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which happens to be Assassin's Creed is my ultimate, my favorite line, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's always my jam. I beat them all. And I haven't beat Valhalla yet. There's a new one coming out in October. I'm screwed. And I bought another game that I haven't even put on my PS4 yet.
So I'm playing Starfield, which just came out last week. And I got the early release, and Todd Howard must be like, I must be paying for his car or something, because I buy the collector's edition of every game they come out with. Well, the collector's edition for Starfield is a smartwatch, and it comes in a case. Well, the box, when I got the box, and people are like, what's this got to do with the Green Lantern? Well, here's the box that it came in. Let me pull out a little bit here.
Yeah.
Is that not the Green Lantern logo right there, or what?
Looks like it to me.
I haven't found any Green Lantern related Easter eggs in it, but I'm going to keep looking.
So I read an article today about Starfield, and they asked, it was Howard and the other guy that was involved in it.
Oh, Phil Spencer, yeah.
Yeah, and they asked him why it wasn't made for a PC yet. And the guy literally said, I have the article here. It's hilarious. I was cracking up. Hold on.
I think he said it is optimized for PC. You just might need some new components.
That's what it was. It came down to the fact that you need an upgrade,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, the files alone. I think it's 100 and something. It's 100 gig for Xbox. I think it's close to 2 for a computer.
Yeah. My son is playing it on the PC. and he
Wow.
hasn't had a single problem with it. So But anyway, when I saw the logo in the box, I was like, oh my gosh, I get such a Green Lantern vibe out of it. But there's been nothing Green Lantern like, other than obviously my character's name is Hal and the name of my ship is the Interceptor. But you got to do what you got to
Go
do,
you.
right?
Go you. Is it pretty good though? I gotta ask. Is it cool?
I am loving it. Think of it as it's Skyrim in space.
That's what everybody's saying.
You could go on and you could be a space pirate and not even do the main thing, or you could be a bounty hunter, or there's so many things you can do. It's very, it's a traditional Bethesda open world RPG, action RPG, but it's all set in space.
Yeah, and I never played Skyrim, so never got into it.
That's a rabbit hole that you go down and you spend the rest of your life playing it. It's literally a game people are still playing 10 years later because there's so
I,
much you can do in
I got enough rabbit holes.
it. So anyway, Night Terrors is over, and you and I both liked the Green Lantern miniseries, the 2-issue thing that we covered. And I don't know about you, but I was going into the conclusion on Night Terrors thinking, okay, I was kind of not so on board with this event to begin with, but I liked the Green Lantern books. I thought Jeremy Adams did a great job and whatnot. So I was like, okay, I'm ready for the ending of this, because the second issue of Night Terror's Green Lantern implied that Hal was going to go deal with insomnia and be part of the finale, and he wasn't. So it was kind of a letdown. I realized this was really a dead man story more than anything else. But for Hal to be able to overcome insomnia and then not be part of the finale, I don't want to say it broke the story for me, but it felt illogical. It didn't make sense that Hal wouldn't have gotten involved, because he was easily saw through the insomnia problems. But it is what it is, and we'll go from there. I didn't think it was that great of an event, although I did like some of the tie-in books. I don't know about you. What was your opinion?
I think, I mean, from a marketing perspective, if I was in head, I'm never going to be the head of something, but if I was the head of this thing, I would have been like, I want to do a weekly Night Towers event and then do the tie-ins and do it, and you can cram it all in October. You could probably boost your sales a little bit in the month of October, and at the same time, you're telling a story that's kind of meant for that kind of genre and that time frame.
It was definitely a story that I thought would have been better for October, and it was interesting. I don't think there's a DC Halloween special this year.
Well, I mean, and not that you have to tap into every market when it comes to like holidays, but at the same time, it still felt like a short story that it didn't feel major to me. Like, it just
right.
felt like, oh, okay.
It didn't feel like an event. It didn't feel like it was no Blackest Night. Let's put it that way.
No, you would never be able to compare the Blackest Night.
No.
No.
But anyway, Philip Kennedy Johnson has been doing rounds of interviews because the Green Lantern War Journal, the John Stewart War Journal book, is coming out this month. And he made a couple of comments which I thought was really interesting, that I thought I'd share in case people didn't see the interviews that he's been doing. But one of the things he talked about is that we know the United Planets is in charge of the Green Lanterns, but the leader of the United Planets is a Durlan named Theros, and he's in charge of the Green Lantern Corps, and he's going to be giving several Durlans power rings. So it sounds like there's no, like, you're chosen because you qualify to be a Green Lantern. It looks like it's, hey, we have a ring, we're going to give it to you, kind of thing.
That's a big that's a big change of the mythos if you're going to go that route.
Yeah, and obviously it's somebody else is in charge. They can make their own rules, but boy, is that a switch. If we were concerned about people just getting rings willy-nilly before, boy, who knows what that's going to be. But what I was really enthusiastic about was a comment that he made, and he kind of alluded to it when we interviewed him a few episodes back. He said that, John's story is about him choosing to give up his life as a Green Lantern because of his mom. I believe his mom is terminally ill, but we haven't discovered that yet. But that's just the assumption I'm making. But he's given up his life, but he's not able to leave it behind because it won't leave him behind. He said, John is done with the service, but the service isn't done with him, which is a little cliched, but at the same time, I think it's an interesting way to look at it. I think it's going to be, I'm very optimistic for it. I'm looking forward to see what he's going to do with this book.
I mean, I'm not even a huge fan of Stewart, but I'm going to read the book because I know
Oh yeah.
I know he can write, man. He's a good writer, and I'm looking forward to seeing his take on Stewart because I got news for it. I mean, that last version of him left a bad taste in my mouth, and
Yeah.
that's not the John Stewart I would have liked to have read. I
Yeah.
mean, it just seems like he's been misused himself for quite a while now.
Yeah. I think PKJ is really going to try to give us all of the facets of John Stewart that we've seen because myself I grew up reading the John Stewart architect from Green Lantern Mosaic and those kinds of things. I was not in love with the Justice League cartoon animated series version of John Stewart. To me that was it was like Batman without all the interesting parts. And so I didn't care for the fact that people have tried to make him this Marine all the time when that's really not it's not the character I'm familiar with. So it'll be interesting to see how he parses that all together. So I'm looking forward to it. It's been a while since we've had 2 Green Lantern books a month, and technically we're going to have 3 here for at least 6 months.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot to talk about. It's gonna be a fun time.
Exciting stuff. And the last time we recorded, it's been a little while, and I apologize for us being a little off the air. I've had some health issues that I'm not going to get into, but it's kind of kept me a little sidelined. But anyway, the last time we talked about the fact that I was going to the Wellsboro Comic-Con. And so this is on its way to you. I'm putting it in the mail tomorrow, I promise. But I got you a book signed by him. It was interesting. I had a really good conversation with Alex, and we talked a little bit about Sinestro and kind of how he gets to where he is. And he couldn't reveal anything. But one of the things that you and I, when we talked about that second issue, was the voice that helped Sinestro escape, was that Melissa Drack? And he paused. He paused, and he's like he was like, yeah, they figured it out. But he's like, I can't tell you that, but that's a really good guess.
I mean, it's a legitimate. I mean, she's a secondhand girl, man. I mean, it's like,
well, and
she's awesome anyway. I love her character, and I hope to see she's coming back soon.
Chad and I from the Lantern Cast were having some fun with it on Twitter a little bit because is Sin Sun the son of Sinestro? we don't really know, but it certainly sounds that way, right? So
I mean,
we're like,
kind of does.
We're like, well, maybe Alyssa Drack is helping Sinestro back out because she needs her child support payments.
That's terrible.
And I do want to correct something. We were, when we did our listener feedback in the last episode, we were talking a little bit about the Dark Side of the Green Lantern Corps story that Keith Champagne wrote, and I made a comment that that story was not going to be in this newly released Green Lantern Corps omnibus, and it is in here. It's interesting. That story is in here, but Green Lantern Corps Recharge is in here, and then it has the first 3 issues, and then it jumps to issue 7, which is the Dark Side of the Green. And Donnie, our friend, the Emerald Enthusiast, pointed out too that you can get that story in trade paperback format. It's a trade paperback called The Dark Side of Green. So if you really want to read this, there's a couple ways to do it. And if you're interested in this book, I don't know what it's currently running for right now at In Stock Trades, but I was able to snag it early, and even though the cover price is $150, I paid $75 for it.
It's went up.
Has it gone up?
Yeah. Bet you 10 to 1 if I check it right now, it's probably went up again.
It may have, but big, thick book. It is, gosh, how many pages? The last part of it is page 1263.
I mean, imagine the production of that thing.
Oh,
yeah.
Look
at the size of it.
Yeah, it's not a light read. But well worth it. And to me, the part that makes me the most enthused is it says volume 1, which implies there's going to be a volume 2. But and the other thing that happened at Wellsboro Comic-Con, I recently, within the last 6 months or so, I completed my run of Green Lantern Volume 2. So I have everything from Showcase 22 through that run. And then Volume 3, I have up to just a little bit after Kyle took over. So I've been selling some of my collection that I don't no longer want to keep. They're non-Green Lantern related books. I've been selling some of them on Atomic Avenue. And so I have to show you my haul. This is going to shock and amaze people. Okay. But I bought this many Kyle Rayner books.
Man, that's a collection. What are you doing getting Kyle Rayner stuff?
Well, I don't have them. So, I'm trying to I don't have all of volume 3. So if I've got all of volume 2, I need to get all of volume 3 because I have all of volume 4 and 5.
Well, that's fair, but then you're gonna have to buy the Simon Baz Gold Standard Edition when it
Well,
comes out.
here's the thing, okay? And I don't mean this is not a backhanded comment, but I didn't pay more than $1.50 for any of these.
That was a backhand. You know that was a backhanded comment.
No, I spent anywhere between 50 cents and $1.50 for these. Most of them I got for around $1. I rated some dollar boxes and got some from Atomic Avenue as well. But I'm filling in the collection so that I can have all of volume 3 because I don't have everything from Showcase 22 through the Johns run.
I mean, backhanded comment or not, I mean, $1 for back issues is perfect. I mean, to be quite honest with you, they got such a surplus of back issues and stuff. I mean, a quarter,
right.
50 cents a piece is legit. And
Right.
I do that for a Hal Jordan book. I do it for, I don't care what book it is.
Yeah. If I found a Silver Age book for a buck, why not? If it was one I didn't have.
I'm working on getting all the G.I. Joe collection back. And, I'd happily pay 50 cents an issue.
But no, so I haven't bagged them and boarded them yet. Some of them came that way, but they're the poly bags, and I like to use the Mylars. So I got to get some new bags. But I've been expanding my collection a little bit. I figure eventually I didn't buy the Green Lanterns run and I didn't buy the Thorn run. So eventually, I didn't buy Far Sector. Eventually I'll get them, but I'm not going to spend full price for them or higher than that for them. But would I like to have that, to have a complete collection? Yeah.
10 years down the road, you'll find it pretty cheap.
10 years down the road, I might not even be here.
You're going to be here. Who knows what happened to Green Lantern by then? By then, we might have a couple of movies.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would like to think so, but
I mean, we're going to be sitting there when we're 80-something years old doing this podcast. They still haven't made the Green Lantern movie yet, Myron. Yeah,
we're still waiting for that HBO Max show to show up, Oh, who knows? Who knows? And Todd McFarlane has really been going gangbusters with the DC action figures. I don't know whether we talked about it last time or not, but there's a Sinestro Corps Batman that I think already came and went at Target. It was a Target exclusive. It was part of that Gold Label series that he does.
Darn, I missed it.
I missed it too. I have the Hasbro one, so I'm not too concerned about it. But the one I'm really interested in is there's a DC versus Vampires Hal Jordan that is supposed to be coming to Walmart as a Walmart exclusive Gold Label. And I'm hoping to get that one because that looks really cool. I'll put a picture of it up on the screen, but it looks really, really cool.
Now, wasn't the Sinestro one a Target exclusive? Because
yes,
asked my buddy Brian about that because he works for Target.
Yep, it was a Target exclusive, and the Vampire Hal is a Walmart exclusive.
So when does the Sinestro one come out?
I think it already came and went.
Oh, man,
my store either didn't get it or just already bought it already. But I live in a relatively small area. Like I only have one Target store within a 60-mile radius. So
I didn't even get it.
They may not have, because for some reason, again, I think it's because I live in a smaller area. We tend to either not get things, or when we do, we get them after they've kind of already come and gone elsewhere. So there's still a chance that it could show up, but I'm not really jonesing for the Sinestro Corps Batman because I already have a version of it anyway. It's not as good as the McFarlane version, but it'll be fine. I'm nearing that. It's funny. I'm nearing that stage of my life where I'm starting to think of, do I really need to even buy it? What I've got totes of things that I can't fit in my room. How much do I need?
Well, you can always just ship them my way.
Well, and my son is like, Dad, I just want to have to sell all this crap when you're gone.
Yeah, exactly what's going to happen because your children are the ones that are stuck with it.
Right. Exactly. I know what I went through with my parents when they both passed away, and I don't want to leave that to him. At least there's some value in some of it, but hopefully he respects it that way and does something with it. I hope he keeps some of it, but we'll see.
We could see about renting out a space and just make a museum. that
That's
way.
right. That's right.
Just leave it like a standing museum and people just come and visit as they feel like it.
The other thing is coming up Sunday, September 24th, out in your neck of the woods is the St. Louis MissouriCon.
Mm-hmm. Excited.
And you are going to be there and you're going to try to do a live YouTube event with an interview with Spencer Nodell.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to work the table with them. I actually got these really cool pins. I'm going to send you one, really cool buttons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And he signed them. So yeah, his grandpa and the son's running it, and Spencer Nordell, yeah. And then they're gonna have a lot of merchandise. I think they're selling a lot of prints and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
Get
So
the name out there. It's really cool. Last
any
one I went to was the last.
anybody who can get there, hey, it's a chance to meet Martin Nodell's son, and you can meet Phil.
Yeah.
So
I'll be there. It's actually it's last year I had a good time. I was supposed to do that broadcast from it last year, but I hung out for like a couple hours and I walked around. It's low key, but it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of cool people come up there. I think one of the Power Rangers was sitting next to me.
cool.
I'm not sure which one it was because I never got in the Power Rangers.
So if you live anywhere where you can get to MissouriCon, it's Sunday, September 24th. Definitely check it out if you can. If not, take a look at our YouTube channel because Phil's going to try and live stream it. And if it doesn't work out technically or whatever, then we're going to record it and we'll just insert it into one of our episodes or something. But we'll definitely try to make sure the content's available for people to see.
Yep, absolutely.
Speaking of the show itself, a few things regarding our show. Stitcher Stitcher was one of the podcast platforms that we were using, one of the outlets that we had, and they went out. Should say they went out of business, but it got shut down. So that's gone away. But we are also now on Pandora. And there were some comments on the Facebook group about, well, you're doing everything on YouTube. Is the podcast going away? And no, not at all. We just felt like we've been posting the audio version to YouTube, which isn't really engaging. And for you and I, Phil, we were doing video some of the time anyway. So we just thought, well, let's take it to the next level. And for those that want to watch us on YouTube, they can see us and it makes it more personable. But we're not abandoning the audio format in any way, shape, or form.
Hey, it would be like if you just put it on in the background, you just have us hanging out with you in your office or something.
Right. We also hit a milestone, and I don't really look at the numbers that much, but I was out there. I was checking a couple of things when I was uploading the last podcast because I was having some problems getting the thing to upload, and so I was waiting for the podcast to upload. I was looking at statistics, and we hit 263,000 downloads for our show in show history.
Wow, that's incredible, man. That's a good amount. What the average is?
I don't know. They say if you get more than 200 per an episode, you're doing like you're at least in the upper 50%. And when I look back and scroll through history, we hit that. So I'm, again, thank you to everybody who's listening and watching, because without you, that doesn't happen. And that's 263,000 more downloads than I thought there were ever going to be. So that's really cool. But you and I were talking about how long you'd been doing this show. This is your 109th episode.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it's been 5 years.
That's incredible.
5 years in June.
And that one stretch we had, we did a lot of them during the pandemic.
During the pandemic. But yeah,
109th episode.
Your 5th anniversary. So it's the signed comic book year. That's
I'll take it. I'll take a pat on the back. I'm fine with that too.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'll even put a plug in. Read Simon Baz. All you get.
But yeah, we are not abandoning audio. Audio is what got us here, and it'll continue to be a way we have it out there. But when I post things on social media, I tend to put the video because it's a better looking thumbnail than just the show graphic.
And it looks cool when it comes up on your thread. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it looks better. And
but please, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, feel free to, it's more of an option,
Right. Exactly. I don't, maybe the mistake I make is I don't post the blog of OA post, which has links to all of it. I do have links to all of it in all of the different outlets in the show notes. But if people are clicking on the link on social media to get to it, it's going to go to YouTube.
Go to YouTube. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
it.
Just because it's kind of the way things are going. That YouTube is kind of the bigger thing. Now, in terms of downloads and listens, we're getting way more audio listens than video watches, and maybe that'll grow.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, the
Yeah.
podcast is where it's at. I mean, I like it
Right.
better in that format anyway, and that's what you had always intended it for when you started, and that's what I still intend it for to this day.
Yeah. I think, for us, we were doing video anyway because it's better for our interactions because we can see each other's face and we're less likely to talk over each other. So it makes for a better experience, and it certainly makes my life as the person that has to edit all of it a lot easier, because since we've gone to this format, I've had to do much less of the editing and cutting out the over talking each other stuff. I've had to do far less of that. So while it's increased production in some ways, it's decreased it in others. So I just think it's for those that want to. I mean, I have a face for audio. It's better in some ways from an editing perspective.
It's your gravitas, man. That's what it is. People are looking at your background.
Look
Look what Myron's got back there in the back.
See the stuff.
Statue.
I keep meaning to do a room tour, but my life is so busy that I have too many hobbies. That's my problem.
I don't know why you can't just walk around the room right now. I haven't even.
I'm going to do it. I've got stuff I want to do that's just video related. I just don't. I have too many hobbies. That's my problem. If it isn't this, it's Halloween or board games or video games or barbecue or it's just too much.
And it's funny when you get older, you get busier, and I don't even know how that's possible.
Yeah.
Because I thought they always say you stay busy when you're a kid, but then you get older and you have kids, and then you get busier because your time gets more constrained.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to friends that are about the same age, and they're like, I don't know if I want to retire because I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't want to be bored. And I'm like, I've got so many things to do. I'm looking forward to it because I can actually spend time making things and doing the things I like doing. So
and I'm an avid reader, so I eat books up. So
I've got a pile of comics I haven't read that I'm dying to get through. I've got the absolute editions of the Fourth World, both volumes, and I haven't even come close to getting a chance to touch them yet. And I'm dying to read them.
Hey, speaking of comic books, that new JSA by Johns is really, really good. I'm liking it. I don't know if you read it or not.
I haven't. I think I'm going to wait and try to read it collected because I guess there's been a lot of delays from what I've seen.
There has, and it's really odd, but his books are always work that way.
Yeah.
But didn't that last Doomsday Clock work? I mean, there was all delays with that. But I will say it's a good story. I will also add that it would probably read better as a collected.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's why I think I'm going to wait and buy it collected.
But the art's fantastic, and it's a great story arc.
Isn't it Gary Frank?
Yeah, and it also it's heavy with Batman, just so you know. Yawn. There's a JSA book, and Batman's a lot in it.
Oh. All right. On that sour note. All right. We'll take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll do our top 5 non-Green Lantern core Green Lantern characters.
What up, dweebs? This is Guy Gardner. You're listening to the podcast of OA.
All right, everybody. So we're back. We're going to count down our top 5 non-Green Lantern core Green Lantern characters. I was hoping I was going to get through the episode without stuttering over that, but I failed miserably.
I would have fell on my face with that
one. So this opens it up to anybody from any of the other color spectrums, Green Lantern villains, supporting casts, you name it. This is a wide open field of characters. So, Phil,
worth noting though, before we do this, it's not. We already did villains, right? We've already done so this is not specific to villains or anything like that. So
no, it can be any of them. It can be anybody.
That's what okay. So
villains could be in it. Supporting characters could be in it. Any of the other colors of the emotional spectrum could be in it, and so on.
I got some off the cusp ones, so it's going to be fun.
Good. All right. So why don't you start? What's your number 5?
My number 5 is going to be Jade.
Jade. Oh, cool. Good choice. Yeah.
I've always liked her. And I wish they use her more. I think I thought somebody posted about, they were asking about, is she even in comics anymore? And I haven't seen her in a book, and I don't even know if she's in anything.
Yeah, did she show up though? Did she show? Gosh, did she show up during the Dark Crisis on Infinite
Dark
Earths?
Crisis might have been one of the last times she
I
showed up.
I think she showed up there. I'm pretty sure she did.
Yeah. Always like Jade.
Cool, cool. Well, my number 5 is Saint Walker.
Oh,
Uh,
go you.
I love the concept of a hope-based lantern and how they augment the Green Lantern powers. And Saint Walker was kind of our introduction to all of that. And I love the character. I've always felt like the Blue Lanterns and Saint Walker in particular, I always felt like he's the Shaolin monk of the Green Lantern universe. That's the feel I've always gotten, the vibe I've gotten off of him and the rest of those characters. So I chose him because he's kind of to me, he's the iconic Blue Lantern.
I like it. It's a good choice.
All right. Well, what's your number 4?
Number 4 is going to be Jillian Perlman, Cowgirl.
Oh, really? That's an interesting choice.
Yeah. Always loved her as a character, man.
I kind of hope we get to see her at some point. I think it would be really interesting to have her come back in the picture as Jeremy Adams is trying to deal with the whole Hal Carol dynamic.
I think it'd be cool if she ended up with a ring at some point.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I mean,
No,
she had a Star Sapphire ring there for a little bit.
Yeah. So
like
I think
one
that
or two issues.
Yeah. So I think that'd be kind of fun. But there's a lot of characters you'd like to see written back in, but I guess it's all dealer's choice when it comes to whoever's, writing whatever run they're writing.
It's interesting. I was reading an interview with Jeremy Adams earlier today, and one of the things he was talking about was that he's knows a lot about Green Lantern, but he doesn't know everything about Green Lantern, and he's amazed at trying to wrap your arms around this many years of storytelling and continuity, and how fans like ourselves know a lot of the details and stuff. And so he's learning some things along with the rest of us. Like, I guess he made a comment. One of the comments I read was he talked about how when he was doing Night Terrors, he'd heard somebody make a comment about leaning into Hal's Jewish heritage. And so he's like, oh, I didn't even know that. So then he incorporated it a little bit into the Night Terror story.
Sure.
So it'll be interesting to see what he does. He says there's something coming up that he's pulling out of the hat that's been around for like 30 years that he thinks, he's like, when people read this, only 3 people are going to know what I'm even doing or what this is about. So I'm like, okay, now I'm waiting with bated breath to see what this is.
Now he's talking about you, probably.
Who knows? Who knows? I doubt it, but
no, bet you 10 to 1 he's talking about you. Or it's another podcast interview he did. Somebody.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, I think Jillian Perlman is a great character. I think that when Jeff Johns created her, I think he really had more plans for her sticking around, because I do remember him saying in an interview once that he hoped she was a character that would have some longevity and would become a permanent part of the Green Lantern logo or the Green Lantern lore. But she kind of faded away after. Yeah. I think it was after that arc that we're talking about, the Star Sapphire arc, she kind of became less involved.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. And to be honest with you, I'd like to see her in a relationship with Hal. I think it'd be kind of fun.
It could be. Yep. Who knows? Maybe he and Carol will not work out and he goes back to Jillian. Who knows?
I think at one point you're going to make a decision. How long have they been dancing this dance?
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, if any woman out there were to dance that dance for that long and still put up with it, there's something wrong with you, because they would have kicked that man to the curb a long time ago. Plays around too much, girls.
My number 4 is one of I think it's your favorite character, Cyborg Superman. Is my number 4. I loved the idea of him being in the Sinestro Corps. I loved how, to me, he became much more of a Green Lantern villain to me than a Superman villain. Seeing him in that story, and then when they used him with the Manhunters, I thought that makes so much sense. There's so much there, and the tie of that character to the destruction of Coast City just adds a whole nother layer. So even though he's technically a Superman villain, I love him as a Green Lantern character.
Johnson used him, man. He was awesome at Night Terrors.
Yeah.
Man, it was unbelievable. I love that story arc. I love when he put him in there. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see him. I always look at my pop figure behind me all the time. I was like, oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's such a great character. It started out, like kind of a one note thing, and then they just added layers and layers to him.
And I think he goes back all the way to Dan Jurgens, Dan
Yeah,
Jurgens invented
yeah,
him,
yep.
long ways.
All right, well, you're number three.
My number three is going to be probably Razor from the animated series. I really like
Nice.
him. And I wish there was a way that he could be incorporated into the overall comic book world. But then again, who knows what how finicky fandom is? You're gonna F somebody off, because
Yeah.
he's not good in the comic books. He needs to be in the animated. I don't know. But I like
I
it.
think the character could definitely be done in the comics. I don't know how you do it without alluding to the animated series. I did like when he did show up in Young Justice. That was kind of cool.
That was neat.
I have you seen that they're talking about doing a 3-part Crisis on Infinite Earths animated set of movies?
That would be awesome.
Well, apparently that's being planned and is in the works. And part of the comments I've been reading was that, well, this opens up the door for them to use a lot of things, because just like in the Flash movie where you saw different DC historical movies and TV shows,
Yeah, totally.
you could do the same thing in an animated environment. So you could see the Green Lantern animated series brought into this. And that would be great. I mean, Jim Krieg is still producing a lot of these DC animated films. I would love to see them do something with that. And to see Razor come back would be awesome.
Why is it funny that their DC animated doesn't seem to have a problem with production? And hit or miss. Most of their stuff is pretty either decent, or better. I mean, the last Green Lantern one, notwithstanding, which was absolute just toilet
Right.
paper.
It was junk. Yeah.
Yeah, but most of them are pretty decent
They,
flicks. I
they've
mean,
been okay. Yeah. The new one, the Werewolf one, I watched, and it was a little
kind of boring.
obtuse. Yeah, it was, and it wasn't very straightforward storytelling, but you can't discredit them for taking chances and trying something different. But the Tomorrowverse just hasn't grabbed me the way that the previous animated universe did.
Sure, sure.
So I'm interested to see if they use this as a way of bridging the gap from the Tomorrowverse, the DC animated universe, and what James Gunn wants it to be. I'm
Gotcha.
kind of thinking, what the new DC universe that comes out of this is going to be his vision. So we'll see. We'll see. My number three is Larfleeze, Agent Orange. I such a great character with great potential, that at the heart of the character, even though there's a lot of humor in there, the humor when done right, is great, because it's a character who can be laughable one moment, but a deadly threat in the flip of a coin, much more so to me than Joker. And yeah, at the heart of it, there's tragedy there because he doesn't have his family.
I wish they made a Larfleeze plush toy, because I think that
Yeah.
would be super cute.
Yeah.
I bet you can make one.
Yeah.
I am definitely making the cookies again this year. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's become an annual thing.
Mm,
I didn't and just I didn't use when we did the top five. I didn't even bring in the animated stuff, so I ignored the animated series altogether. Otherwise, my list would be a little different. But
sure.
but
Makes
I
sense.
I was sticking just with the comics. But Larfleeze, I just think there's so much potential. I didn't like the series that they did where he got his own book, because for me it was too much of the yucks. It was too much of the humor. It was off balance. If you go back and read the Christmas special, that was like the perfect balance of humor and the edginess, and then stuff that they did with him before. I mean, this is a guy that could take out an entire corps by himself. Um,
Now
but then,
think if they were to make that little quirky Christmas book, turn it into a 30-minute animated whatever.
yeah,
You could do whatever animator you want, right? A newcomer that, hey, I just want a project to do. Here you go. Here's $1,000, whatever the going rate is.
right, right.
Well, with the strike going on, who knows? But that being said,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
then you pump it out, you just put it on your streaming, they're gonna find the little quirky fans that are gonna get that and love it. I
There
know
was
I would.
One of my favorite episodes of the Justice League animated series was Comfort and Joy, and that was the Christmas holiday episode. And you had like a story with John and Shayera Hall. They went to a bar. They celebrated Christmas his way, and then they celebrated her way.
Yeah.
And then you had Superman and his Christmas with Martian Manhunter. And they did the same thing with the Batman in the animated series. Some of my favorite episodes were the holiday ones. They could do a Christmas anthology movie with 2 or 3 shorts. And boy, that Larfleeze one would be such a perfect fit for something like that.
And then to help out the streaming services, let's go the extra cent here. Let's do the marketing for them. You could, when your Christmas season comes around, you could even put those in your own separate category as individual episodes that people can watch. And then you include new ones in there, like the Larfleeze special.
Yeah.
Done. There you go. I would click on that in a second, HBO Max. Thank you.
Yep.
But whatever. They're probably not going to listen to us. They don't care.
No.
It makes too much sense,
Right.
All
right. Well, we're halfway through, a little bit more than halfway through. So we're down to our top 2. List is getting tight now. What is your number 2?
Number 2 is Brother Worth.
Oh, nice one.
Oh, I love him. And I love his figure, from the Black
version. Yeah, that was a cool figure. I love the whole look of that character.
Yeah, he just looks awesome. There was a comic book I started reading a while back, and it was all had to do with mammoths, and they were not mammoths, but like mammoth mammals, like an elephant or a rhinoceros, and they were all like battle warriors and stuff like that. And I can't remember the name of the comic book. Elephant something. I don't know what it was called, but the whole crux of the storyline is that they were all basically like troops or something like that, or they all had their own society, but they were giant animals, and they stood upright. Like the elephant stood upright. He carried a gun and stuff like that.
What was it called?
God, Elephant Man, maybe? Elephant Men?
I was going to say Elefino.
Well, nice.
Everybody's just turned off the episode and shut it off YouTube now.
Now that's going to bother me what that name of that comic book was, but I'm going to look it up, and
it's going to stick in your craw now.
Yeah, but I'm going to find it. All right, go ahead. All right. So anyway, Brother Worth, yes, perfect. I love
it. Yeah, well, he's a great character. For me, number 2, I went way back, and I went to Tom Kalmaku. If you look at the history of Green Lantern prior to the Bronze Age and stuff, when Tom kind of faded away, Tom was Hal's confidant. He was there with Hal every step of the way. He used to keep the Green Lantern diary journal book, the case book, and so on. And he was really Tom was Hal's confidant and best friend, really, more so than Barry and Ollie were. He was there all the way along the way. And he's had an interesting arc, because back during the Millennium event, he became one of the new Guardians. So he was going to be one of these more ascended type of characters. And that whole thing didn't really take off well. And then he really disappeared there for a while during the Kyle Rayner run. And then they did a whole story. I don't know if you remember reading that Legacy, The Last Will and Testament of Hal Jordan. Tom featured very prominently in that one. It was a great book. And Tom's life kind of fell apart and so on. And he resented Hal, and he showed up, I think, in the Spectre stuff a little bit. It was just, and I loved when he did the eulogy for Hal in the one Green Lantern issue after Final Night. So he's just had an interesting journey. We saw him during the Morrison run a little bit, really just as a very minor appearance, but it was nice that he showed up. So again, I'm hoping with some things taking place at Ferris Air in the next few issues, maybe we'll see a return of Tom Kalmaku. I think he's a character that deserves to be remembered and utilized again, at least in some way. I'd love to just see the two of them sit down together, Tom and Hal, and kind of patch anything up that may be still left lingering, and move forward with it.
I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer if you think about representation and what it is nowadays. I mean, there you go. He's a supporting character.
Yeah.
Nobody's out there is asking him to be the main lead, but at the same time, you're still getting the representation that you need from a character like that as a support to your main line.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a common sense decision that I just think little things like that are overlooked.
Yep.
But you're right. He's a great character.
Yeah. I think he's underappreciated, but I think that's just because he's been off the table for so long.
Right.
All right. We're down to number one.
Hmm. Side note, it was Elephant Men. It's Image Comics. Check it out.
Aha.
It's really cool.
Now you'll be able to sleep tonight.
I will. I mean, everybody's gonna know my number one. Anybody who knows me knows my
Yes. Yes. Simon Baz. No.
It is. It really was. Cyborg Superman.
Cyborg Superman. Yeah. Gotta
Always
be.
gonna be the number one. Always gonna be the number one. And I'm even gonna say this on live air. It's. I mean, I like Cyborg Superman more than I like Hal Jordan Green Lantern. But I mean, it's just my favorite character overall.
Yeah. Yeah. And I knew it would be. And I was like, geez, do I leave him off my list? But he's really in my top 5.
No, it's cool, man.
He's
a key. I mean, I think he's a key character, and I think he can be utilized in a lot of books. But I'm glad he's not overdone a lot.
Right. When he shows up, it's meaningful. When he shows up, it really does mean something.
And the cool thing about him is he's been in different medias. He was in the animated with the Death of Superman thing, Death and Return. He's been in other stuff, and he's just cool. I hate how he gets confused with regular Cyborg, but whatever.
Yeah. It's in his name. It kind of
it is. But he's always going to be Hank Henshaw, so that's all that matters.
That's right. So my number one is Atrocitus.
Oh, go you.
I think it's interesting when you think about. I really struggle because there's like so many of the Sinestro Corps characters I love too. Like Arquillo was like right up there, and one of the things about the John Zera is when he introduced these characters, he came up with such interesting backstories for them. And I was thinking of Crib and Carousel and some of these characters that he came up with during the Sinestro Corps War. They had such interesting backstories, but Atrocitus to me was really the poster child for how you take Green Lantern lore and come up with a new character, but it still fits into it. Like if there's a history there, even though it's a new character, with Atrocitus being tied to the 5 inversions and the destruction of Yzmal and the ties back to the Manhunters and the Guardian history, it makes the character have so much more weight than just somebody you introduce for the sake of having an adversary for Green Lantern to fight. And Atrocitus and channeling anger, there's such a neat way you can use that. I mean, I loved how Cullen Bunn used those characters, the whole idea of rage and how you can be controlled by it so much. And that's the same thing is true with Larfleeze. Jeff Johns had that whole theory that the further away you got from the center of the emotional spectrum, the less you controlled the emotion and the more the emotion controlled you, which is certainly true of rage and greed and even lusts and I wouldn't say so much for compassion, but on the outer edges of the spectrum, very, very powerful emotions. And to see Atrocitus really just embrace it and revel in it. I mean, he can't move on. That's the downside. He can't move on because if he does, he's trapped. Because if he does, he's going to die. Because if you remove a Red Lantern's ring, you die. Mm-hmm. So unless you've got a Blue Lantern around, let's not go down that road. But there's always exceptions to every rule, right? But he is forever trapped in this endless cycle of rage and hate and anger. And to me, that's just, I don't know. I find it very, very interesting.
Atrocitus is cool. I like that. He was cool in that Lego game. You could play him in that Lego game too.
Yeah, that was cool. That was very cool.
That Lego game. And you can play Larfleeze in that Lego game.
So for folks that are listening and watching, send us a comment about what your top 5 characters are that are in the Green Lantern universe, but they're not wearing a green ring. And Sinestro obviously would have been an obvious choice, but because he wore a Green Lantern ring, I disqualified him.
I do have a runner-up.
Yeah?
Yeah. Radu.
Oh, yeah. That was an interesting character. I'm not all that familiar with him, but I know who he is.
Well, you got that stack of Kyle Rayner books over there. Get to know him. You'll see him in there.
I'm not sure if I was actually going to read them.
No, it's fair. He shows up in there. I mean, he shows up in there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like your Kalmaku,
Yeah, exactly. He's Kyle Rayner's Tom Kalmaku.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. It's cool. This was a fun exercise. I like doing these lists because it really makes you think about the breadth and depth the Green Lantern universe, because there's just so much there.
I know, man. And I'm gonna for the next one, I'm gonna think real hard about what we can do to stump you. Mhm. The next one's gonna be hard when I come up with the top 5 list, because I'm gonna have to think myself. It's like, all right, well, if I'm gonna set this challenge, I have to make sure that the challenge also includes me. So
Right. You want to dig a hole for me and dig a hole for yourself at the same
right,
time.
right. So I'm gonna try to come up with the next one. My wheels are turning now, but it ain't going anywhere. Not for a little bit.
All right. Well, we do have some listener feedback, so let's take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll have the power ring tell us what our listener feedback is.
Our listener feedback is from Cloned Avenger. Forwarding transmission in 3, 2, 1.
Thanks for the Green Lantern content. Been a big fan of GL since first reading Rebirth by Jeff Johns many years ago. It was actually after seeing the first Iron Man film in theaters. I went to a Books A Million and picked up 2 graphic novels, Iron Man, Extremis, and Green Lantern, Rebirth. I've read mostly Johns GL, but I did read a good bit of the Kyle Rayner comics, as well as the John Stewart Mosaic series, and Guy Gardner's Warrior stuff. Haha. I have a lot of friends that like superhero stuff, but most do not actually read comics, so I appreciate the nerding out of all things GL. Enjoying Night Terrors so far.
All right. Welcome back. All right. So we got a listener feedback from the Clone Avenger. And he likes our content, which, we love our content. So of course. But he does go on to say that, he picked up a lot of books and everything from Books A Million, which I will say they do have a lot of good stuff there. I get a lot of stuff in there myself. But huge fan. I see he's got some Rayner stuff. And Myron, you got some Rayner stuff. You guys got some stuff to talk about.
That's right. That's right. But Clone Avenger, thanks so much for listening to the show. And I hope, I say this a lot, and I truly mean it. If anything that Phil and I or Bill and I have done enhances your fan experience, then that's what my goal was from day one with the website and the show. So if that's the case, then mission accomplished, and I'm very thankful for that. And I love hearing from folks, and I love hearing what they enjoy. So that's cool.
I'd be interested to hear what most people who get podcasts, right? It's usually a specific grouping or a specific thing or interest, right? So if you like the superhero genre, so you have a superhero, a big umbrella of superhero podcasts. But then you get more specific. You get Superman, and then you got sub ones of Superman, like 5 or 6 different ones, and so on and so on and so forth, right? And at the end of the day, I always think about myself and the podcasts I listen to. I never listen to the podcast of OA because we do it, so right. So it'd be like me listening to an episode we just recorded, but at the same time, I draw my interest elsewhere because I'm already ingrained a lot with Green Lantern content since we do the podcast and I read the books and then I do the shows and stuff like that. So I'm always curious about how other listeners, how they narrow in on their listening values, as far as, well, I'm going to listen to the new podcast, or no, Myron and Phil haven't recorded yet. We haven't heard from them in a while, It's just it's a big thing out there with these podcasts and everything, and everybody has different interests, and I've always been curious of what draws them to it,
Yeah,
let alone just listening to us talk and laugh and talk about our content for a while,
right. It's interesting because I always sit there going like, oh, why would somebody listen to me? I just don't. It's weird.
I mean, weird. And that's what you think about,
It's totally weird.
And it's a humbling thing to have, because you're like, at the end of the day, I still see us as 2 people just hanging out talking about stuff. And the microphone notwithstanding, I don't know who's listening. And to be honest with you, do I care? Of course I do. I'm glad people are listening to me. But at the end of the day, if they're not, I'm still not going to get upset about it. I understand, because interest draw where interest draw. And
sure. And people's interest in things wax and wane. It's that's the norm. You know, I find myself the same way. I'll be really interested in something for a while and then I'll drift away. Lots of times I'll come back to the same thing. I almost find it's almost like seasonal for me.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that when you get older, it kind of feels that way more.
Yeah.
I haven't started my Game of Thrones like niche again. I'm getting ready to get into that because I go through the ebb and flow of Game of Thrones.
I go like, you know, like from winter through spring, it's usually all about board games. And then when spring hits, it starts to be all about barbecue. And then as we hit midsummer, it becomes all about Halloween. So, and I've noticed the pattern of my interest level changes accordingly. And the same is true with comics. I mean, I find times like I'll want to read a lot of stuff and then I'll come through time periods where I'm like, I don't really feel like reading comics right now. And I'll do something different.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm the same way with my books. I'm on, because I did all the Game of Thrones books, but I just started the original and I'm on book 2. And I kind of stopped, and I need to actually go back and restart it because I stopped it after I was early in. But I read all the other ones prior to that, you know, and I just haven't read the original 5 or 6 that are from the storyline. But you're right, it's an ebb and flow thing.
Yeah.
But Cloned Avenger, thanks for listening. Keep listening.
Thanks for making us a part of your fan experience, and we hope you stick around. All right, Power Ring, why don't you tell everybody how they can be a part of the show, and we'll come back and we'll wrap things up.
You can become a part of the show by leaving a message up to 1 minute long on our voicemail line. Call us at 406-POD-OA. That's 406-763-6362. You can also email us at podcast@blogofoa.com. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, my friends. Well, this wraps up another episode of the podcast OA. Phil, as always, I enjoy sharing with the top 5 or anytime we get a chance to chat. It seems like sometimes it's either feast or famine. Sometimes we can get our schedules to line up and we can do things on a pretty regular basis, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But either way, I always enjoy having the conversation and sharing it with our virtual friends.
It is fun, and they get to see our little collection back here. Which we got a massive collection. I still don't have all my stuff out yet. When I get a house, it's going to change. I promise.
It will. Well, we know that we have at least we have 2 or 3 books coming up this month of September, so we've got plenty of Green Lantern content to come. And
I'm looking forward to talking about the War Journal one. You know, I think that's going to be kind of a kind of a switch. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Hal, but it's going to be nice to see something else written by another book. That's going to have content in it, except it's different because it's not another character included in the main book, you know?
Right. And we'll have kind of a double dose of John Stewart because he will still be in the backup of this issue that comes out next week. And then his launch will come later in the month. So we'll get kind of a double dose of John Stewart. I'm looking forward to it because they're 2 books that are set in the Green Lantern universe, but tonally they're different. So it's going to be a more complete experience than if everything were the same all the time. You know, I loved the Johns era and the Green Lantern Corps book by Peter Tomasi. I love those books, but they were very much in stride with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so different. It'd be nice to be able to have, you know, the on-Earth adventures, the action stuff with Hal, and then have the cosmic stuff with John. And so I think, you know, Green Lantern fans are going to be eating well for a while.
Yep. It's a good time.
It is.
It's the ebb and flow, man. And we already talked about that, the ebb and flow.
Absolutely. Well, friends, we will be back soon because we've got some new Green Lantern books to talk about. And I cannot wait for next week to read the next issue of Green Lantern and see where things are going. I don't know what you feel. I know you're looking forward to it too. So it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll get back together soon and chat some more Green Lantern stuff.
Absolutely.
So, my friends, until next time, as always, please take care of each other well, keep your power ring charged, and make every day your brightest day. Take care. Thanks so much for watching this Green Lantern video from the blog of OA. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find even more great Green Lantern videos, reviews, podcasts, and more at our main website, www.blogofoa.com. So until next time, keep your power ring charged and make every day your brightest day.